There are still many questions that haven't been answered surrounding Microsoft and Xbox's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, a monumental moment in the games industry that I don't think anybody really saw coming unless you had insider information. And among the most popular questions is, of course, what's going to happen to all of those franchises that were once multi-platform? Will they now be Xbox exclusive? The common assumption right now is that yes, once Microsoft and Xbox have fulfilled all of their existing deals and obligations, they'll begin to transition towards new entries in those franchises being Xbox exclusive. And I mean, the franchises that they acquired are no slouch. We're talking about Diablo, Warcraft, and StarCraft, Call of Duty, Overwatch, among many others listed right here. Now, when Microsoft and Xbox are asked this question about how are they going to handle exclusivity, they tend to keep it pretty vague. So speaking to Bloomberg, for example, they said Microsoft plans to keep making some of Activision's games for PlayStation consoles, but will also keep some content exclusive to Xbox. And Phil Spencer said in an interview, I'll just say to players out there who are playing Activision Blizzard games on Sony's platform, it's not our intent to pull communities away from the platform, and we remained committed to that. Which seems to suggest that as far as existing contractual obligations go, they have to uphold those, but everything outside of that is kind of up in the air, is up to Microsoft, and it's likely that a significant portion of those IPs and future releases will be Xbox exclusive, as obviously Microsoft as a business is trying to push Game Pass into further success, getting more subscribers and enticing customers through their acquisitions and new games that come out on Game Pass on day one. I mean, that just seems like par for the course given how Microsoft and Xbox handled the ZeniMax and Bethesda acquisition, where existing deals like the timed exclusivity for Deathloop on PlayStation, they fulfilled that. But they've also announced that upcoming games like Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, those will be exclusive alongside the host of IPs that have projects being worked on, whose future releases will also likely be exclusive to Xbox and PC, and likely not coming to PlayStation and Nintendo. So I understand people would assume, it's probably going to be the same deal with the Activision Blizzard acquisition, given the scale especially of this acquisition, almost $70 billion, which is almost 10 times that of ZeniMax's $7.5 billion acquisition. Now, with this statement, it could be argued that Phil Spencer is leaving the door open for potentially some Activision Blizzard franchises and titles and upcoming releases also coming to PlayStation, but it's hard to say for sure. Sony, at the very least, in a statement said that they expect Microsoft will abide by contractual agreements and continue to ensure Activision games are multi-platform, but that's all based on existing deals rather than anything outside of that. It's not up to Sony to tell Microsoft what to do with the franchises and studios that they purchase for almost $70 billion after a certain point. Now, with all these questions raging on, an interesting development happened when Phil Spencer tweeted the following, suggesting that Call of Duty may not be exclusive to Xbox in the future. Here's what this tweet reads like. Had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony's an important part of our industry and we value our relationship. This tweet has obviously gained quite a bit of traction. I mean, already over 112,000 likes because of its suggestion that Phil Spencer may be looking beyond this whole exclusivity scheme. And as far as Call of Duty is concerned, understanding the wide reach that this specific franchise has, might be considering allowing this franchise to stay on PlayStation as well as Xbox and PC and all of these platforms. It may very well be that future Call of Duty entries that are outside of any existing contracts or deals may also come to PlayStation. This tweet seems to at least be leaving that door open, though nothing definitive is declared here, and Phil Spencer definitely chose his words very carefully, once again referencing honoring all existing agreements and expressing their desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, but the desire to do so isn't confirmation that that's what's going to happen, and there are are likely going to be a lot of talks between Xbox's leaders and PlayStation leaders, and generally people are complimenting the fact that Phil Spencer seems to be leaving the door open for healthy competition between Xbox and PlayStation, which is generating positive optics surrounding Phil Spencer's leadership and Xbox and where they may very well take Activision Blizzard, hopefully, fingers crossed, in a vastly more positive direction than what the company was under Bobby Kotick's leadership. But there are also some naysayers who are still on the fence about whether this tweet genuinely indicates that Call of Duty will be coming to PlayStation, even with future titles outside of existing arrangements. It may very well be that they're strictly referring to Call of Duty Warzone, which is already on PlayStation, and maybe this is Phil Spencer just saying we're going to keep Call of Duty Warzone on PlayStation, but future entries outside of existing deals or outside of any games that have already released on PlayStation, those will be Xbox exclusive, or at least Xbox timed exclusive. But I don't know, I'd like to think that Phil Spencer knows exactly how this tweet comes across, where it very well seems like Xbox is open to releasing the Call of Duty franchise, which they now own, on PlayStation platforms, even with future entries. That's what people are keeping their fingers crossed on. And if that's the intention, then kudos indeed, because exclusivity, it's one of those like necessary evils that in an ideal world wouldn't be a thing. We would see, Mario coming out on Xbox and PlayStation, would see Halo coming out on Nintendo and PlayStation platforms, would see God of War coming out on Nintendo and Xbox. That'd be the ideal world, but the world just doesn't run that way. Exclusivity, to a degree, especially first-party exclusivity, is required for a competition. And now with Xbox and Microsoft buying out Activision Blizzard, that's now a first-party conglomerate that's now part of the Xbox banner. And the fact that Phil Spencer, even in this circumstance, is at least still offering the possibility and desire to keep Call of Duty multi-platform even in the long term definitely is a good sign that I hope carries through, because it'd be nice if Call of Duty could still be played by as many players as possible, and the same goes for any franchise that has the potential to be multi-platform. But this is all hopes and dreams and speculation. The wording here is still vague enough that it's clear nothing is decided, so, I would wait for more information before declaring this as something definitive. But the fact that the door is open at all kind of surprises me and gives me good vibes. And hopefully this will carry through. Another positive development surrounding Microsoft's purchase of Activision Blizzard and the fate of the Call of Duty franchise comes in the form of this Bloomberg report, whose headline reads, Activision employees say that they're optimistic about acquisition by Microsoft. There are still some concerns specifically about layoffs that may or may not happen, but Bloomberg did speak to more than a dozen employees across Activision Blizzard, and overall they're relieved that anything has actually happened that could fundamentally change the company's course. Many people had been worried that the status quo would remain intact, and that was unacceptable. Indeed, Activision Blizzard leaders like Bobby Kotick and the other executives were being very stubborn about enacting any change, and were working counter to employees who wanted to create positive change and empower employees, give them a seat at the table. But with Microsoft's acquisition and Phil Spencer's more considerate leadership, developers are generally perceiving this to be a step in the right direction, especially with reports that Bobby Kotick will actually be exiting Activision Blizzard once the deal closes, which is set to happen sometime before June of 2023, so a year and a half at most worth of wait based on Microsoft and Activision's predictions on when they can work all the kinks out and close this deal for good. And indeed, Bloomberg states here that Kotick's expected exit being reported has led those who are on the fence about whether they should stay at Activision Blizzard or not, deciding maybe it's worth sticking this out a little longer and see where they end up. The news alone may be enough for the struggling publisher to retain some staff who were wavering, with many employees across all of Activision Blizzard's various studios stating that they expect Phil Spencer's leadership to be stronger than Bobby Kotick's. It doesn't take much to be a stronger, more considerate, and just better leader than Bobby freaking Kotick, just bottom of the barrel as far as scummy CEOs go. The flip side to that, though, is that Bobby Kotick is staying on as CEO until the deal closes, and when he exits Activision Blizzard, he's no doubt set to receive a golden parachute, a huge payout, as if he already wasn't set for life. monetarily, financially, he's going to get even more money, but at least we get rid of the parasite and progress can begin to happen at Activision Blizzard. I think without Microsoft's acquisition, progress would have been either a lot slower or maybe, wouldn't have happened at all. But on the topic of Call of Duty, one potential positive development is the cancellation of the annualized release schedule. That's the idea, the plan, that's what's in the talks, nothing definitive yet. According to Bloomberg, the acquisition may also be transformative for Activision Blizzard's business strategy. Under COD, the company released a new game in the blockbuster Call of Duty franchise every year without fail, and turning out a new game every year led to brutal overtime for workers at companies such as Treyarch and Encino-based Infinity Ward, on top of the fact that these games just launch in a clearly rushed and broken state, in large part because they couldn't maximize the efficiency of workers because they were burned out from all of the crunch, but also because they just weren't given enough time, autonomy, and space to do their best work and ship Call of Duty, a new Call of Duty entry in the best state it could be. Vanguard has not been selling particularly well and has not gotten a whole lot of positive fanfare, and Call of Duty and Battlefield as well have both been in a rut because these game development pipelines get more and more complicated, with them having to push the boundaries of what these games accomplish in terms of features and technology, but are not afforded the necessary time because of that annualized schedule that screws everything up. So the cancellation of an annualized release for Call of Duty may very well lead to future entries that are published by Xbox and Microsoft to just be significantly better in quality. That's what we can keep our fingers crossed for. Bloomberg provides additional details here. High-level employees at Activision have discussed moving away from the annual release schedule. Although nothing has been finalized yet, there is a belief among many Call of Duty developers that releasing games at a slower cadence will please players and help bolster the franchise, particularly after the weak launch of last year's Call of Duty Vanguard. So this isn't just some casual buzz happening behind the scenes. High-level employees are seriously discussing the possibility of moving away from an annual release schedule, and a bunch of developers within Activision Blizzard are expressing their support for this shift, noting that it just make developers' lives easier, it would improve the quality of the game, and it would generate more positive player sentiment and allow Call of Duty to grow as a franchise instead of stagnate as it has been because of how constraining that annualized release schedule has been. Now, this shift may not happen until next year or later, as this year's Call of Duty is expected to redeem the franchise's fortune. So yeah, there is a new Call of Duty set to come out this year. Obviously, this project was started before Microsoft and Xbox's acquisition, but after this entry, who knows how things will pan out? Who knows whether we'll see a new Call of Duty the year after, or if Microsoft and Xbox, once they complete the acquisition, will decide to give the development studio of Call of Duty just more time. And beyond the fact that giving Call of Duty development cycles more breathing room would lighten developers' intense workloads, there's also the possibility of new opportunities for Activision's game makers to work on other titles. Instead of a couple of studios just stuck churning out these Call of Duty games in a strict schedule, this de-annualization of Call of Duty would just give developers across the board more breathing room to pursue other types of projects, especially with the treasure trove of IPs that is now under Microsoft's umbrella because of the Activision Blizzard acquisition. These IPs that Bobby Kotick would never dare to touch, but Phil Spencer is excited to revisit and modernize. I mean, it could pave the road to some really cool revivals. Once again, fingers crossed. And this goes in line with Xbox's endeavor to push Game Pass as its flagship service, where not every game needs to be a massive hit to be considered a success. The whole point of Game Pass is having a wide variety of titles, and putting out a variety of eclectic titles may help draw new subscribers. Indeed, that's a sound strategy. So Microsoft and Xbox are less afraid to revisit lesser-known franchises and give them a new spotlight to shine in. And I think that would be a brilliant strategy if that's what they went with. And it seems like Phil Spencer is very enthusiastic about taking that approach, given that in an interview with the Washington Post, he discussed some of the intellectual properties owned by Activision Blizzard, and Spencer's excitement may have mirrored the enthusiasm of a StarCraft player noticing endorsing the long dormant franchises logo in Microsoft's acquisition announcement, Phil Spencer expressed enthusiasm towards the list of IPs that they acquired, franchises like King's Quest, Guitar Hero, Hexen, among many others. And he said right here, "We are hoping that we'll be able to work with them when the deal closes to make sure we have resources to work on franchises that I love from my childhood and that the teams really want to get. I'm looking forward to these conversations. I really think it's about adding resources and increasing capability." So he's open to revisiting these franchises and giving studios who are passionate about dormant franchises the opportunity to do something with them. It really does feel like Phil Spencer's leadership is going to breathe new life into Activision Blizzard, and while the acquisition does come with certain drawbacks like how many of these franchises will probably not end up on PlayStation or Nintendo, I'd rather have an Activision Blizzard whose full potential is realized by good leadership, even if that leadership comes at the expense of exclusivity elements, over an Activision Blizzard that's still ruled by Bobby Kotick and remains multi-platform. I feel like so far I'm seeing more pros and cons to all of this, but obviously time will tell how all of this plays out. I cannot predict the future, and we'll see just how much Phil Spencer desires to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, the kinds of talks that happens behind the scenes, and whether the road can be paved for future Call of Duty titles outside of existing contracts to release on PlayStation. But at the very least, so far, Phil Spencer's motivations and intentions seem to be in the right place. But until more developments occur, I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on what Phil Spencer tweeted here. How do you interpret this? Do you think this means Phil Spencer is opening the door for Call of Duty to still release on PlayStation, even though now it is an Xbox franchise with future titles? Or do you think he means to say titles like Call of Duty Warzone, which are already out on PlayStation, will remain there, but the rest will be exclusive? What do you think the behind-the-scenes talks will be like? Just share any of your thoughts, hopes, and speculations in the comments below. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.